A simulation showing states shrink and expand based off population. So California is going to explode, so is Texas, so is Florida, and this is going to be over time, but we should see California start to dip back down a little bit. Wow, look at Wyoming. Watch Wyoming become like basically a small crevice banished to the Shadow Realm. Ew, this is actually kind of creeping me out. What is this called? Like, this is like Fear of Jello. Why? Look at the Deep South as like the Deep South is like rolling into each other. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Oh, the font changes. South Carolina, Florida now moving off to the left. Oh, is it also based off where the population is going? No, because there's more people that live in... This is just really weird. Like Texas is moving way too out west. That's too much population out west. Why is the East Coast states being stretched like this? Look at Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming. They're all just like crunched up at the top. Colorado's like the biggest in the area, but yeah, there's not a whole lot of people in this part of the US at all. Surprisingly, DC is visible. How is that possible? I never knew that I needed to see all US states become jello, so thank you for that. Why did New Jersey just become basically Ohio? In January 1943, the Empire of Japan would reach its territorial peak. This would be the biggest this country would ever get during World War II. And no matter how many times I bring this map up to show during videos, I'm always shocked at how big they got. I mean, they were literally beginning to fight all of India after they took over Myanmar. And they were actually even starting to fight Australians a bit too down here in this continent. There were pockets of Chinese resistance happening behind enemy lines. The Japanese were able to get pretty deep into this country as well. And to think they were fighting the US for 14 months and they still got this big. Of course, they would begin to shrink pretty quickly afterwards. Japan was clearly just not playing any games back in those days. The number of prisoners per 100,000 people. The lowest on this map seems to be Monaco in the south of France, but Iceland seems to be doing pretty good over here too. So is Norway, only 49 people per 100,000 in prison. And you'd think with their prisons looking like this, everyone would be trying to go to jail. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. This looks like an okay place to me. Oh, I'm an idiot. San Marino is actually the lowest with 6. While Belarus, Russia, and Turkey are the top 3 in this continent. Pretty interesting that you could literally follow an exact line to show which countries tend to have more prisoners than others. Once again, Europe divided. Now we need answers for the Vatican City. Do they even have prisons there? So technically, they are lowest on the list with 0. A computer simulation of the spread of radiation pollution after an explosion at a missile range. So it literally just spreads straight across all of Central Asia. I'm sure Pakistan and India are going to be getting a little bit at least. Oh, actually it's... Whoa! It just keeps going. It's almost all over Turkey. It's now heading into China. How long does it take for this stuff to dissipate? It is now over northern India. This is all within the span of about 10 days. Look, it starts so small. Europe is really lucky that they avoided most of it. I'm guessing the winds kind of kept them safe in this instance. This was back in 2019, by the way. I'm going to assume some mountain ranges kind of save certain areas here. Yeah, because the Himalayas kind of block a little bit of it. Man, there is so much radiation pollution in this map that it completely dissolved the entire Caspian Sea. The percentage of people that say they were angry during most of the day. The Nordic countries seem to be among the most chill, Finland with only 5%. And then on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Turkey. How is half of your population angry on any given day? Those are some really high numbers. What is making this country so angry? Oh, wait. Oh, that's right. I forgot about this guy. Oh, that explains it. Even just slightly less than a quarter of Germans being angry on any given day is still a little concerning. When Germany's mad, we all know about it. A little surprised to see just how chill Russia is. I don't think Russians get angry. They just continue to get more stoic. I wonder if willingness to admit that you get angry is a part of this. Some people might just not want to say in the survey that they were angry. Or maybe some countries do. Spain is surprisingly high. It's one of the very few European data maps where there's like no pattern. It just seems pretty random. The year women received equal voting rights. And surprisingly, we have some parts of the US actually beating Europe? What is this? Wyoming was the first in 1869? Finland was the first for Europe, and this was nearly 40 years later. I wonder if lack of population in these states had anything to do with this, because Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Idaho, they were all among the first. So some states and countries before allowed women to vote, but not in all elections, or sometimes women were only able to vote after 30, where men could vote at 21. So this part of Europe gave equal voting rights somewhere between 1910 and 1919. This is a very interesting modern day map though. Remember, this is not what Europe looked like back then. Also, was this before, during, or after World War I? And all these red countries down here were sometime before World War II, during, or after. Seems like before 1930 or before the Great Depression started. The US gave all equal voting rights. Portugal, absolutely insane. How did you get away with this for so long? Switzerland, who wasn't included on the map, didn't do a very good job either. I could see why they wanted to be left off. The CIA's preferred map projection direction, according to CIA.gov. They have finally chosen a side in this hotly contested debate, and I'll be honest, I don't think anyone expected this thing. Is this because they have some sort of secret island hidden somewhere in the Pacific where only the CIA can get to? I don't think I've ever seen a map projection like this in my entire life. Why? And I've seen some weird ones. Like, out of all the ones they could have gone with, why? Just why? You could have still been somewhat unique and gone with something like this. If the CIA needs help finding better map projections, they know where to find me. And that's not a joke. I think they really do know where to find me. The top 10 biggest gaming companies by their gaming revenue. Bottom of the list, Namco and Ubisoft, but that's still $2 billion. And remember, we're talking about revenue here. Take-Two and then Epic, EA and then Activision Blizzard with almost $10 billion. Tencent and Nintendo, they're over $10 billion. And then finally, the two biggest of them all. But Sony has everyone beat, and it's actually not even close. I don't know if anyone still cares about the console wars anymore, but there does seem to be a pretty clear first place right now. But then again, Microsoft is still trying to acquire Activision Blizzard, so that would change everything. Do they catch up or maybe even come out on top if this deal actually goes through? Subscriber growth for different streaming services. I always love seeing the updates on these numbers because wild things are happening. Like how as of this year, Netflix has just stopped growing. They've actually gone down a bit somehow. I'm assuming all these streaming services had explosive growth during the pandemic, and maybe now that it's over, a lot of people are just getting rid of that stuff. But then again, when it comes to Disney Plus, their numbers don't seem to be affected. They're still kind of going up. Maybe Netflix has just reached their rooftop. Prime Video, though, is surprisingly pretty close to Disney Plus. And then we have this race for last place between Hulu, HBO Max, and Apple TV. They're all about 40 million. I don't even know how accurate some of these numbers are. According to this, Amazon Prime has 175 million users, and Disney Plus is technically beating Netflix? Maybe we'll never know. Where first-line cousin marriage is legal. Ho ho ho! What do we have here, Europe? How the tables have turned. Seems like most countries in this continent are completely cool with the cousin marriage. And it's not even semi-legal. They're just like, yo, go for it. Everyone likes to make the incest jokes towards me, being born in Alabama. Which, yes, we too in Alabama are totally cool with cousin marriage. But I'm tired of the jokes. I would never marry my cousin. I'd marry my sister. We'd marry siblings in Alabama. I just want to know what this yellow is. Allowed with restrictions or banned depending on the circumstances. I like how both states I've ever lived in are cool with cousin marriage. A map of all the ultra capitals in the United States. An ultra capital is a state capital that also happens to be the biggest city in the state as well. So you can see it's rare for some parts of the US, and actually not so rare for others. I'm wondering if we can figure out why. There's so much that goes behind the reasoning why you choose certain places to be the capital and why you don't. It's interesting that it seems to be a very rare thing for the East Coast, also very rare for the West Coast as well. I feel like sometimes it's a good idea to not have your biggest city be also your capital. Like, why would you want all that chaos? It's very important to know your long pointy sticks. That didn't sound as weird when I said it inside of my head. And I don't know if I would have reviewed this if I had realized I won't be able to pronounce any of these. There we go. The spear down here at the bottom. That seems simple enough. And there's also the military fork. I've always wanted to know what this thing is. It looks so cool. I wonder what the purpose of this shape is for the Bec de Corbin. Like, what else does this do? Ah, a septum, just in case you find yourself in Atlantis. Then there's the pole axe, which actually has like the steel part go pretty down the handle. Wouldn't that kind of throw off its weight distribution if you were like holding it down this way? Yeah, I'm noticing that you kind of want to have it even, right? Wouldn't it help if you have a nice handle? I think I'll take this halberd. I have no idea what that does, but it looks cool. So many times before gunpowder, warfare really just came down to how long was your sticks. Because at the very end of the day, these are all technically better than swords. You don't gotta get that close, just poke, poke. The different soil quality of Europe. Some countries have it good, others not so good. Ukraine, Romania, Hungary, these all seem to be very green. But of course, if you have a massive mountain range, that's gonna kind of impact it. Here, the Alps, you don't really have good soil quality there. And there's also a pretty nice mountain range that goes down this entire peninsula even. With that logic, the Iberian Peninsula was gonna be pretty red. A lot of hills over this way as well. Ooh, look at that deep green they got going on here in northern France and Belgium. Does this not just correlate with like elevation or like flatness of the land? Well, yeah, if you have like a lot of tundra and just it's cold, that's gonna be an impact. But yeah, I mean, this is a really flat part of the continent. Of course, the soil is gonna be real nice there. Probably a lot of factors, and I'm really only narrowing it down to like 2 or 3. The 7 wonders of the ancient world. This stuff always makes me cry. The only one that's still pretty much recognizable is the Great Pyramid Pyramid of Giza. There's also the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Temple of Artemis, this Mausoleum, and the Colossus of Rhodes. Finally, the statue of Zeus and the Lighthouse of Alexandria. It's honestly insane to think what these things would have looked like back in the day. I feel like it's kind of unbelievable at times. I mean, even the one that's still around looked totally different. This would have been insane. In the 50 years we've been recording the Earth's rotation to the 10,000ths of a second, only a single day in 2008 measured 24 hours long. Before this moment, it tended to be a little bit slower, actually. So does this mean the rotation is actually speeding up ever so slightly? Oh god, that actually sounds so scary. So it's like the Earth just gonna be like one day. I'm assuming the gravitational pull from all the other planets and the moon kind of have an impact, or are we doing something? Are we throwing things off, the humans? As of June 29th, 2022, a day was actually a little bit shorter. So it hit this perfect 24-hour day, then it went kind of back up, and now it's going down? Why is this scary to me? I know it's only a couple milliseconds, but like, that just seems like it should be concerning. The fact that it's not exact, I know that we're talking about 10 of a thousandth of a second, but still, I guess that day in 2008 was perfect. The Scottish Highlands, the Appalachian, and the Atlas are the same mountain range. These were once all connected at the center of the Pangea megacontinent. If you actually overlaid the modern borders, you can see it pretty clearly. Since the United States was at one point right next to Africa, you can see where it would move north. This is probably not going to be perfect, but at one point you can kind of see where it would go and how the Scottish Highlands are here. It is crazy to think about the most northern tip of Norway technically has some sort of weird relationship to Louisiana. They were once on the opposite ends of the same big mountain range, which is kind of strange because Louisiana is pretty flat in some parts. I'm assuming a lot of this land that was former mountains have kind of smoothed over. Like Ireland looks like it'd be barely even livable. Where did Iceland come from? I guess they just they popped out of the water from the volcano or something. This is like absolutely mind-blowing to me. I would have never figured this out. So I guess in a way, anyone can sing West Virginia by John Denver. At least if you're along that same mountain range, you kind of have a connection to the whole mountain mama. And big thanks to Twick and Hamster, the Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth, Argentinian Grandpa, Aushtin, Powersh, Fazha. $20 is a lot, Drew. aPhatNarwhal, Barnsky W, Isaac, I guess, bringbackpolandball, Cowboys 83, Price, istoledrewspetdog, Monday, Ortin 5610, Philipp RF, Robert E, RyeThePie, the Mexican 760. And why am I doing this?